Okay, so last night, Clay and I watched Kung Fu Panda. It is not the first time I've seen it. It's maybe like the fourth, fifth, somewhere in that range. And I will be perfectly honest, which is something I always want to be. I did not like this movie the first time I saw it. I don't remember when that was. I didn't see it in theaters. I think I wanted to. And I was like, this is going to be like this incredible movie. Like, this movie looks really funny, looks really entertaining. I remember watching it and thinking, I'm really just watching a dude getting bullied for the majority of the movie. And then by the end, he kind of beats the main antagonist, who was beating the shit out of everyone else. And it felt like bullshit. Okay, so this movie sucks. Okay, I mean, that's what I get for expecting something good from Kung Fu Panda. The next time I watched it, which was probably like a couple years later, now that I kind of knew the movie I was getting into, I liked it a bit more. I don't remember if I was like, whoa, I really like this, but I was like, you know what? The second time through, I found myself being more entertained. I found myself laughing quite a bit more. I still think the ending's kind of bullshit. Like, I like the themes and, like, the messaging, like, I remembered something. Like, it's good, it's just not great. And then I think I had seen it another time. And I was like, you know what, I enjoyed the movie more this time. I think the ending's a little bit bullshit. There's still some parts that don't exactly work. But you know what? I do like it. I find I like it more every time I watch it. So I do believe that last night was time number 4 I have seen this, which I guess is kind of a serendipitous number because Kung Fu Panda 4 is coming out next year, the year after? Is it supposed to be this year? I don't know. It's supposed to be, I think, within the next couple years we're getting KFP 4. So I guess 4 is just a magic number now. Sorry, like, I say that, and then I immediately think of 3 as a magic number from Schoolhouse Rock, which brings me back to Jack Black, because he makes a reference to that in School of Rock. So I guess going from there, back to Jack Black, and this. Here we go, mental gymnastics. I was expecting to like this movie more, watching it for the 4th time, which is not something I say very often. But, I notice a trend. I like it more each time, so I assume, because I was looking forward to watching it again. I was like, all right, I know this is a good one. I'm probably going to like it even more. It's going to be a good movie, all that kind of stuff. I was technically not incorrect, because I did enjoy it more, but I feel like I was wrong, because I loved this movie. I sincerely, genuinely did. I did not cry watching this movie, which feels like a weird thing to have to specify about a film called Kung Fu Panda. And I don't feel like this is a movie that is really something that tugs at the heartstrings a lot. I mean, maybe like the Oogway scene in particular, but for the most part, it's not like a super sad or emotional movie. I mean, that's what Kung Fu Panda 2 is. But I felt so emotional watching this movie almost the entire way through. I think one of the reasons I didn't like it so much the first time, and even while I never loved it every other time, is I kind of see myself in Poe. Which I don't think I'd ever made that connection before last night. I've struggled with my self-image, with my weight in particular, for the vast majority of my life. I have always felt fat, slow, and just gross. And I feel like it is important for me to say, when I say that, that is not me saying, well, all overweight people I think are just fat, slow, and gross. Not the case at all. It's just me personally. I always was just like, I just don't feel like I look good. I just feel like I'm wrong. And that's not the only thing. Like, I don't know if I've ever said this on the channel. There's no way I haven't. But I have cerebral palsy. I literally have brain damage. A phrase I like to say is I am kinetically retarded. Because I technically kind of am. And growing up as a kid, it was really noticeable. And I also had asthma, which was really bad as a kid. And like with my cerebral palsy, like I did not have good balance. I would fall over all the time. That, plus being overweight, plus being asthmatic, I didn't have a lot of stamina. So whenever, you're doing gym class and you have to do a lot of running, or like playing basketball or whatever the hell, like I was always really bad. I was the kid that was always picked last, etc., etc., etc. And watching this movie where Poe is frequently disregarded and chided because of his body type, because of his weight, because he's fat. Excuse me. It makes a lot of sense why I probably didn't enjoy this movie as much as I should have. It's like that Chainsaw Man meme. It's like, he just like me. He just like me for real. But I don't like me. So I don't like watching this. But generally speaking, I feel that I am in a much healthier place. Physically, mentally, emotionally, financially, all the alleys. So I would say in Puss in Boots 2 at the end of that, it's just straight up better. And that's one of the themes in this movie. I say one of because there's a few. It's self-betterment. And self-betterment for the right reasons. Like, training to become the Dragon Warrior to get all the power in the world. You're doing it for yes, you're getting stronger, you're improving, but not for the right reasons. Doing it to protect people, to save people, to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and feel comfortable with who you see. Those are the right reasons. This is a movie that, while I do think is still funny, because there was a lot of parts in this movie where I'm smiling, I'm giggling, I'm laughing, I was having a good time. It is funny, and the action is great. I think some of the choreography is so good. I think the bridge fight is my favorite, just action scene in the movie. It's so fucking cool. Okay, either that or Tai Lung escaping from prison. He felt cool! It's yeah, no wonder every other time I've watched the movie, I've been I'm sorry, how does Poe beat him? This dude's been training his entire life. He's kicking everyone's ass. He literally escaped a place that was made specifically for him. Poe's been training for 3 days? I don't buy this. This is bullshit. Now that I have gotten a lot more into things like fighting games and the Pokemon competitive community, not that I actually play competitive Pokemon, nothing against it or anything. Excuse me, I've just been watching a lot of False Swipe the past, since last year or so, which shout out to them. I love that channel. Look, I watch them every week. I now really understand counterpicks. And that, yes, this character in a game, this particular Pokemon, this Tai Lung, you can be incredibly good at what you do. You can be, easily the best thing in the metagame. But there is still something that counters you. And in the right hands, it will kick your ass. And that is really what Poe is. He is the counter. And yes, part of that is because he's very big, he's very fluffy. It's harder to get to his pressure points, which is foreshadowed earlier in the film when Mantis is doing the acupuncture. When he's doing the acupuncture, he's like, man, it's really hard to get your pressure points under this fur. I was like, oh shit, yeah, that's foreshadowing. I don't know if I've caught that in my previous viewings or not. I feel like I should have, but for sure I caught it this time. They're all right, points movie. It's not pure bullshit at the end. And it's something Shifu says to Poe as well. He's like, look, I know I can't teach you the way I taught Tai Lung. I can't teach you the way I taught the 5. Your brain just works differently, but the potential is still there. And that's my bad that I didn't see it. I can make this work. Okay, that's another fight I really like, is the chopstick fight for the dumpling. That shit was so fucking cool. Anyways, point. It makes sense that Tai Lung is not able to fight this guy because he just works differently. His brain works differently than the 5, than Shifu, than these other soldiers who probably have more traditional training. He can beat anyone in a 1v1, or I guess a 5 and bridge v1, because he knows how they work. He can't do that with Poe. And it clicked this time. It dawned on me this time, there we go. Well, there it is. The one thing I always didn't like about the movie, I now don't have a problem with, and I think is genius. At this time, talk about some of the other themes in the movie. Self-betterment is one. There are no accidents is another one. Which there's 2 lines from this movie that I remember incredibly well, that I think will just kind of stay with me forever. Because even when I didn't like the movie, or I was like, yeah, it's okay, I remembered these. Now, there's a few others as well, like, there's no such thing as bad. I don't remember exactly how he phrased it. He's like, it's just news. There's no good or bad. Tai Lung has escaped. That is bad news. I remember that one. It's not from the movie, but of course we all know the monkey. Which I think is from the show, and I love that. I think that line is it's perfect internet material. But it's there are no accidents and there is no secret ingredient. This movie's kind of like Cars, in that even when I didn't care for it and thought it was okay, just not my favorite, kind of disappointing, there was always something about it that really stuck with me. In Cars, it's the ending. Even when I hated the movie, which I now don't, watching the Pixar movies, I'm like, wait a second, this movie is hysterical. Unironically, it's really funny. I love Cars. I've always loved the ending. I think the king should be able to finish his last race, and the humility of that. It's fucking beautiful. I've always remembered there are no accidents, and for sure, there is no secret ingredient. I've said it before. I am a Christian. My faith is something that is important to me. And it really is the faith part. Believing that there is something out there, that there is a higher power. And through some of the darkest points in my life, it is something that has kept me stable and kept me moving forward. Not always, I'm ashamed to admit, but I have gotten through those patches, and I feel like my faith has always been stronger for it. Now, this is not a movie that is about Christianity or about God or anything like that, but with the theme of there are no accidents, that's something that speaks to me because I don't know if I believe that there are either. Sure, I think there can be minor things, like if I walk and then I kind of trip a little bit, that is an accident. It doesn't have a big ripple effect. I mean, maybe butterfly effect, who knows? But generally it's no, that probably doesn't. But there are other things where I'm this worked out in a really, really specific way because this happened, this happened, this happened, this. It's like a Final Destination death trap or just the game Mousetrap. Sometimes you just see those things that work together so perfect. Here's a great example. I am a good fan. That's a weird phrase. Let me try that again. I'm a big fan of the show My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic. Love me some Friendship is Magic. And in the early 2010s, I remember having a Dr. Hooves shirt, which if you're familiar with the Friendship is Magic fandom, you probably know what I'm talking about. If not, there was one of the ponies like in the background, had an hourglass for his cutie mark. So what a cutie mark was not expecting me talking about Friendship is Magic for Kung Fu Panda, but here we are. Bear with me. Cutie mark is essentially a thing on your ass that... I mean, he's not wrong, but what the fuck? So it's a symbol that appears on your ass that is emblematic of what you are going to do with your life. And this dude's cutie mark is an hourglass. So, or like hourglass time, and I guess people thought he looked like David Tennant as a horse or some shit. The fan they called him Dr. Hooves. They're like, oh, this is the doctor just as a pony, and blah blah blah. I remember having a Dr. Hooves shirt, and I was wearing it in college, and I remember seeing this dude, this real geeky looking son of a bitch, that I had remembered from high school. We had one class together one time. I mean, not like one time, it was like a whole semester, a whole year. But we're only in one class, and I had never seen him again. And he was this really annoying freshman. Like, you know what I mean when I say annoying freshman. But I remember having a few conversations with him and getting to know him past that and going like, you know what? I kind of like this kid. I think he's a good kid. He's a little weird. Sometimes he just says really dumb shit. But who doesn't? I do it all the time. It's part of my brand. My brand. Just said dumb shit. And so fast forward like 4 years later, I see him. I'm like, I remember that guy. I'm going to go say hello to him. And so I walked up to him. And he has told me his side of the thing. He's like, I saw you, and you looked very vaguely familiar. And I didn't really want to engage, but I noticed the shirt you were wearing. It was that Dr. Hooves shirt. Maybe it's Hooves. That sounds better. I think Hooves just sounds, especially like, Dr. Hooves. Who are you? Anyway, sorry, I got distracted for a second. Excuse me, point. He saw the shirt and was like, I just started watching the show. So you coming at me, I was like, I don't know where this is going to go. But yes, you saw the shirt, so I thought at least this is something we could talk about. And fast forward, like damn near a decade later, one of my best friends, I live with him. Like my life would not be the same without him in it. There are no accidents. There is no secret ingredient. I don't know what it is about that phrase, an idea. That's the shit that got me really emotional. And I still feel it. I don't know if it's the sense that, there is no trick, there is no bullshit. You have to work to get the thing you want. You don't just get the secret of the universe by reading a few words. It is something you have to be able to attain and find yourself. That's kind of part of it. I think there's something there. But it really is just the... Fuck. Sorry, it actually does get me kind of emotional thinking about it. I don't really know why, but I kind of know why. It's that it's just you. And I like that it's not that the scroll is blank. Because I think that would lead it more toward the first thing. Like, yeah, there is no secret ingredient. It is you have to work for it. You have to earn it. There's no bullshit. It's the fact that it's reflective. You are the secret ingredient. It's just you. You have everything you need to do what you want to do what you need to do. Whether you're there yet or not, that's a completely different conversation. But you have everything you need. You just have to see it. you have to be able to look at yourself and accept what you see and move forward. And as someone who's not where he wants to be, but is a lot closer. Well, maybe not a lot, but is definitely closer. And who for the first time in a really, really long time is able to look at his own reflection and like what he sees, it kind of fucking hits different. I kind of talked about with B-Movie just like how much I enjoyed it. I was like, yo, this is kind of an S-tier movie. Like, I don't think I can really say I like it as much as like the 2 Shrek movies or Prince of Egypt, but you know, I really liked it. This might be my favorite movie so far. It hit me in a really unique way that no other movie in the marathon has, that just a lot of other things don't. I like that this is a martial arts movie, and not just there's fighting and there's martial arts in it, and not that it's really well animated. I also need to say, like, I love the animation in this movie. Like, I love its look, I love its animation. Whenever it goes 2D, which I don't think it does super often in this, it looks so good. It's one of those where I'm like, I kind of wish this whole movie was in 2D because of how good this looks, but also I think the 3D looks really good, so I'm not really going to complain. I know Kung Fu Panda 2 does a lot of more 2D stuff, and it looks really good at that too. Like, yes, like, we got... DreamWorks is good! Like, was that in doubt? I mean, I did have to watch Shark Tale. So it kind of was. Like, there's that kind of lull where the movies are okay, and there's this chunk where, aside from Wallace and Gromit, they just don't look good. Like I've said, like, they have this weird, really plasticky look where I'm like, the movement is good, but I just hate how everything looks on the screen. Like, yes, I know it's a movie, I know it's fake, I know it's animation, but it looks fake. I want to watch something and be engrossed in the world, to feel like I am there and experiencing shit. Make it look good. Now they just did. It started with Shrek the Third because it's a Shrek movie. I like how Shrek movies look. B-Movie looked good. I mean, the people still look fucking nasty, but I don't mind it so much in B-Movie. I think a lot of it is because, okay, one of these really nasty looking people is Patrick Warburton, and his voice just makes the whole thing 10 times funnier. But it's yogurt night. Why is yogurt night so hard? And then one of the others is this, like, Al. He looks like Al the Chicken Man from Toy Story 2, and he's voiced by John Goodman with, like, the most powerfully over-the-top Southern drawl. And it's glorious. Like, this is so funny and entertaining. And then you had this, where I'm like, okay, this movie looks great. We are being consistent in movies looking good. And then it just hit me in ways it hadn't. And then things that I never liked about the movie finally, like, really clicked and made sense. Do I really like it more than Shrek 2? I don't know. Because that, to me, is probably the crown jewel of DreamWorks. As much as I love Prince of Egypt, I think I can say I like Shrek 2 a little bit more. Puss in Boots 2, I'm almost not counting it, just because, like, alright, like, we technically haven't gotten to that part of the marathon yet. It's like, I don't feel like we watched it as part of the marathon. It was more like, hey, this movie is really good, let's go ahead and go see it. We're gonna watch it again when, like, we get to the end. Then I'll kind of like, alright, now that I've really seen everything and these movies are all pretty fresh, what do I, like, where would I put it? It's definitely an S-tier movie. Like, it's one of the contenders for the double S crown for being the top. This one really, though, gives it a run for its money. And I will be honest, as soon as we were done, I was like, Clay, do you want to watch Kung Fu Panda 2? Like, I enjoyed and loved this so much. Unironically, I kind of just want to watch the second one now. And so technically we did do another double feature a lot sooner than I expected. Not for the usual reason of let's watch two bad movies together and enjoy our suffering. It's, no, this was really good. Let's go ahead and just do the next one. And like when it's time for it to come up in the marathon, we'll skip it because like we're just kind of watching it early. Which I won't really go into Kung Fu Panda 2 right now. I'm going to do that in its own video. I will go ahead and say though, I liked the first one more. Which is not what I would have said before. Kung Fu Panda 2 is still amazing. Like, I think it is still probably an S-tier movie. It's like, it's fantastic. There's a lot of good shit in it. It doesn't hit me as personally as the first one does. I think its story is probably, it essentially says, we're gonna focus a little less on the philosophy, although there is still some of that there. And we're gonna focus a lot more on this, like, complex emotional story and have a lot more fighting. And I really like that shit. But it's just not as personal as the first one. Hell, fuck. Even the fact that it took me several attempts to like the first movie as much as it does is a kind of another parallel to myself. It took me a really long time to like me. Fuck, this movie is really personal. It's great. I'm actually about to go pick up my friend. We're going to watch Avatar 2, so I'll probably record Kung Fu Panda 2 tomorrow, and then I'll record Avatar 2 tomorrow. Sorry, I was just kind of like, am I looking forward to watching Avatar 2? Like, I am. I'm looking forward to the experience of watching this movie more than the movie itself, but hey, worst case scenario is I spent, like, because I'm buying my friend's ticket for his Christmas present, like, it's Avatar 2, we're watching, like, IMAX 3D. Worst case scenario is I spent about $40, it was like, this movie is terrible and I hated it. What's probably gonna happen is I enjoyed the experience going to a big-ass theater and watching, that, like I was just saying a little bit ago, being engrossed in a world, feeling like I'm there, and it looks great. And is the story good? No. Are the characters memorable? No. But I had fun, and that's all that matters. It's like going to a nice theme park ride. But if I want a good story, I'll just watch Kung Fu Panda.